All right, it is 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this town hall meeting. My name is Jessica Cox, and I'm the moderator for the event this evening. Before the discussions begin, Mayor Daniels and Deputy Mayor McDonald have opening remarks. When they are finished speaking, I will explain the format for the rest of the evening. Merci.
Welcome everyone to this very important meeting. As we work through our budget adoption process, we feel it is necessary to meet with the residents and address key issues. As your elected council, it is our responsibility to provide both operational and capital budget yearly. During this process, we have to consider the needs of the community in the upcoming year, but also think forward to how our discussions now will impact the sustainability of services for the municipality organization in the mid and long term. Council is not discussing ending this property tax. What? Okay.
And everyone, far away. Is that better? Okay, sorry.
Let's take this one.
Let's try again. Is that better? Still no. Hello? Is that better? Can you hear me now? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It's nice to see such a great turnout. I think the council and the mayor are really pleased to see such a large number of people here. And we think this is a really good opportunity for us to have an informed discussion with and from the community. So at this point, I'll let Ms. Cox go on with the formalities, and then I'll read my opening statement after that. Thank you.
Okay, so there are 3 topics for discussion this evening, which will be discussed in the following order. First will be the Seniors and Disabled Persons Property Tax Bylaw. Second will be the waste removal service level reductions. And third will be the property tax increase. 40 minutes have been allotted for each topic, and we will have a brief 5-minute break between each one. We expect to start with the Seniors and Disabled Persons Property Tax Bylaw at 7:15, break at 7:55, resume at 8 o'clock, with the waste removal service level reductions, break at 8:40, and resume again for the property tax increase at 8:45. We expect to wrap up by 9:30. For the discussion, Mayor and Council invite you to use one of the 3 microphones to ask your question and/or share ideas or solutions to each of the 3 topics. Mayor Daniels and Deputy Mayor McDonald will be responding on behalf of Mayor and Council. If you are unable to easily access one of the mics, please wave your arm and either Councillor Carroll or Councillor Pishinger will bring a mic to you. Please note this event is being live streamed on Facebook. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. And those who are unable to attend in person may live stream it and submit their questions via the live stream. We will check in for those questions with 5 minutes left in each discussion, and Councillor Ferguson may bring them as they arise. In order to allow as many people as possible the opportunity to ask questions or share ideas or solutions, each individual will be allowed a maximum of 60 seconds at the mic to speak. I will be timing it. If you are still speaking at 45 seconds, I will raise the 15 seconds left card so you know that you have 15 seconds left. Please respect the time limit as a courtesy to others who would like to speak this evening. Finally, please keep your questions and/or comments focused on the topic being discussed. For example, please avoid questions about the property tax increase during the seniors and disabled persons property tax bylaw during that time allotted, and vice versa. If you have questions or comments for Mayor and Council about a topic that is not one of the three being discussed this evening, please use another avenue, such as speaking to the mayor and/or a councillor at a later time, writing a letter, and/or delegating to one of the standing committees during their regular Tuesday meetings. Tonight is specifically for the Seniors and Disabled Persons Property Tax Bylaw, waste removal service level reductions, and the property tax increase. So let's begin. The microphones are available. Deputy Mayor McDonald, I think, has.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. So as we begin our discussion, and just to put some context around some of the topics, I'm going to give a little bit of a background. So some information that will help with the discussion tonight. And like I said, put it in context. In 2014, the Government of the Northwest Territories and NWT Association of Communities identified that the territorial government was underfunding the 33 communities in the Northwest Territories by almost $40 million annually. Right now, this translates for the town of Fort Smith being underfunded by approximately $3.5 million annually. This amount includes approximately $2 million for our capital investment replacement, $1 million for regular operations, and $500,000 for our utility environmental budgets. Unfortunately, there have been very little additional financing commitments by the Government of the Northwest Territories to close the funding gap. This means that for the town to maintain current levels of service and for the ongoing renewal and replacement of our infrastructure and assets, we need to find other ways to cover the gap. Due to the rapid rate of increase in inflation and cost of living, our budget has had to be adjusted to ensure that staff are able to do the work that we require of them. Between 2012 and 2017, inflation rose approximately 7%. In 2022, we have seen an increase from 2012 rate of inflation by approximately 25%. This means everything, goods, services, cost more. There has been no significant increase to our controllable expenses in several years. These are items such as building repair and maintenance, vehicle repair and maintenance, materials and supplies for various program areas. In fact, there have been reductions in some of the non-essential programs such as recreation and library services. We also identified uncontrollable expenses such as power, heating oil. Since 2018, these expenses have gone up by 31%. Ultimately, creating a budget is a balancing act. We have to consider the cost of services and the funds that we receive through transfers from the Government of the Northwest Territories, taxes and user fees. If we don't have enough funds coming in, then we have to reduce the services we provide. So we're looking for input and solutions on those our three topics, and we have to make decisions that are going to be in the best interest of the community for today and the future.
Council is not discussing to end this property tax referral program, but rather ensuring that every resident who is eligible for the program is able to access it and that it is sustainable for the future. When we evaluate any programs the municipality government administers, we must also consider the stability of the community into the future. Right now, we would like to hear from the community members about how they would like to see this program managed going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just a little more information and context around the seniors tax program. So for those of you who do not know about the program, any senior over 65 age or person with a permanent disability who is unable to work is eligible for the program. 50% of the cost of property tax is by the government of North Territories and 50% by the municipal government. This is a bylaw that council intends to review in 2023, and we'll be seeking additional input from the community through this process. In 2022, the town did not collect $211,626 in tax revenue through this program. Today, that is a 5.72% tax increase for all of the other property owners. Up to this point, we have also been paying enrolled residents' school tax portion. There is no requirement under the territorial program or the bylaw to pay this tax. We do not get any portion of this from the territorial government. When we pay these taxes, we are taking money directly out of the municipal revenue. In 2022, the town paid $33,800 in taxes directly to the government of the Northwest Territories through this program. At this time, council has made the decision that the municipal government will no longer be paying school taxes for those residents enrolled in the program. If the people would like more information about the school tax or to inquire why they must pay school tax, even if they don't have children in school, they should contact the government of the Northwest Territories. It is also very important to note that the cost to property owners in general not paying taxes or people who do not pay for other types of invoices issued by the town. The town does not have any money in the bank for when we need it, or the great deal of money is spent trying to collect these outstanding debts. Currently, 23% of properties are enrolled in the program and do not pay property taxes. This percentage has been going up steadily over the past few years. In 2016, it was 19%. With the aging population, we don't anticipate this going down in the near future. Up until 2009, there was a $600 cap on this program. So that's just a little bit of background of the history of the program, when it started, and sort of what the parameters are, so everyone is aware. So if there are questions, we'll gladly take any questions from the floor.
I have a question. I would like to know, I was just briefly looking through the bylaw with respect to this we're talking about, and it's old. There's been one amendment. And are you guys currently following?
Okay. The original bylaw was, I believe, created in 1990 when the program was originated by the government of the Northwest Territories. We have not, there was one revision to the bylaw in 2009. The mayor and council at the time removed the $600 cap from the program. At this time, I don't believe that the bylaw is administered as it is written within the bylaw to the letter.
Is there a good reason why it hasn't been administered, or has this just been practice? Or have you guys looked at that and it's asking another question?
So this is how it has been administered in the past, and that's part of the reason that we've brought this to the attention of the community, is that we need to review and rewrite that bylaw in order to ensure that it's delivered properly and correctly to all the residents, so that the distribution of the funds and the access to the program is fair and equitable for everybody.
Why would the GNWT put a program in place like this and have that motion in place for that long? It seems to be outstanding. And what's the background to it? What's the reasoning for that?
Sorry, the reason for the bylaw?
No, the reason for the GNWT to put this program in place.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, the reason for the program, the initial intent, as I understand it, for the program from the GNWT was to assist seniors to age in place and try and keep more of our seniors in their homes for a longer period of time. So it was to assist with that process, or to help them to be able to do that by making it more cost effective.
And what is the alternative?
Not sure I understand what you're asking.
Well, you're saying it's cost effective this way, but was there other proponents or proposals that come out that you could look at, or this was the only thing that was delivered?
This is the only program that is funded through the government of the Northwest Territories in relation to this particular item when it comes to property tax. We've currently made, like I said, no decisions on the existing bylaw other than the fact that the school tax does not qualify under that program. All of the program will be reviewed over the next 12 months prior to budget next year, and a new bylaw will be developed so that we can ensure that the bylaw is written in a way that clearly identifies who is eligible and ensures that all of the people that are eligible are able to access, and all of the people that have an entitlement are able to access. Because if you read the bylaw the way it's currently written, a lot of people that are currently accessing the program would not be able to access the program.
So in other words, this could be more cost effective for the GNWT to put this proposal forward and was accepted by the municipalities.
I don't know that it will, that I would agree with that. I don't know that it'll be more cost effective for the GNWT. What I know is that we need to review the program to ensure that it's administered fairly and to everyone that is entitled. So at the end of the day, whether that means that there's a larger cost or a smaller cost to the government of the Northwest Territories, we don't know at this time. That's why we need to review the bylaw and ensure that it is written in a way that is supportive of everyone. And we've also discussed the fact that we need to ensure that we are considering the vulnerable within the community in this process. And that's the vulnerable of all ages. We want to make sure that this is fair and equitable for everybody. And that's part of the process that we were discussing.
Well, the only reason I asked that because we don't know the history of how this came to being. So if it gives us a better idea of where we're at today, then more people will understand. And I don't see that in here, so.
Good evening. Maybe I can shed some light on why the government created this. Years ago, if you remember, the government of the NWT would build all these seniors' homes all over the Northwest Territories, and then seniors would move into those homes. So the thinking behind it was to encourage our seniors to live in their own homes, and the longevity would probably be longer. So we created an incentive by assisting the communities that were tax-based to pay half of the taxes. And that's how the program came about. So when you think about this whole program, it's a good program. The only problem is it would be ashamed if the town now clawed back their portion and taxed the local people. the seniors, because you have to
I'm
remember.
sorry, Jeannie, that it's,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your rules because I came in late.
the 60 seconds is allotted per question or comment, and that was 60 seconds.
So I just wanted to ask, was the intention of the town to look at raising taxes for seniors?
Thank you for the question. No, that is not the intent. Our intent at this time is to look at the program, to look at the bylaw, which, like I said, was written in 1990. It had one amendment to it since then, which all the amendment did was remove a cap that was in place at the time. And so from looking at the bylaw, it's outdated and it's not detailed. It doesn't clearly define the program. It doesn't clearly define who is eligible. It doesn't clearly define what the requirements are to participate. It's very vague. So what we need to do is look at that bylaw, prepare a new draft, and part of that process will involve input from the community. We're not going to do this in a silo. We've already stated that. We want to move this forward and ensure that all community residents that are entitled to access this program have equal opportunity to access this program. So that's our intent. This is not a conversation that we've had about removing the town's portion or killing the program or anything like that. We want to continue the program. We want to make it fair and equitable.
Thank you.
It looks like we have a question on another mic.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. I was just going to ask, because I was just a little confused on what the proposal was for the seniors. Because I understand that the seniors portion with the GNWT, there's already eligibility criteria in their portion. So I'm not clear on why the town doesn't have those criteria in their bylaw. Because I know I used to work for the village in Fort Simpson, so we basically just followed the GNWT's criteria. So I'm confused. Sorry.
Yes, so looking at the existing bylaw, it doesn't actually clearly reflect the program as it's laid out by the government of the Northwest Territories. It's very, like I said, very vague and unclear what the requirements are. So as I understand it, one of the requirements is that in order to be eligible for the program, all owners of the property must see. So, and also, as I understand it, it's not administered that way at this time.
Okay, thanks. So I know that administering the program at a municipality level, prior to the municipality receiving the money from the GNWT has to approve who the senior is and the disabled person. So they'll ask for those requirements prior to you getting your monies from them. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm not involved at that level of the administration of the actual program, so I'm unable to respond to that.
We have another question over here.
Thank you. I just want to build on what this lady said, because if we're asking for solutions, I'm not clear exactly where mayor and council is on the issue specifically. I think if there was a more broader statement that we could look at and figure out a solution to, then maybe some people here could actually offer up solutions to you. So with that being said, I'm asking if you go ahead and develop a criteria or whatever features you put in place, will you come back to the town at a later time and say, this is our direction that we've discussed and talked about. Now, what do you feel about this and what can you contribute to this?
Yeah, I will say yes to that. I mean, our intent here is to have community involvement in this process. We know it's a very important issue to the community as a whole from all levels, both participants, seniors, and everyone else, right? Because it does directly impact all the tax base of the community. Part of this process is we want to involve the community. So as we move forward and we the program and we look at how we can improve what we're talking about here is that as the costs rise, as the cost of the community rises, as all of those things increase, and the number of people that participate in the program increases, the revenue that the town receives decreases, right? There's a bigger cost over time. And that directly impacts our services, our ability to deliver services, and our ability to maintain our infrastructure. So we have to look at how we can make the program sustainable long-term as we get a bigger uptake into the program. So that's part of this process. And that's really our goal at the end of the day, is to ensure that we have sustainability. And if we can't have a program that's sustainable, how do we continue on with that program? Right? So that's our goal, is to make sure that it's sustainable and that everyone that has the ability or the right to participate can participate.
Just Gloria, I have Gloria and then Barkley and then Richard.
Bottom line is we want to know if you're planning to tax the seniors. I came to a meeting with a different council, and Ron Holter sitting here can attest to that we were told that the seniors would not be taxed. Now, a lot of us seniors been paying taxes for over 40 years, and I don't think it's fair that all of a sudden you come up with a bylaw and it ends up that the seniors that want to stay in their own homes have to pay taxes. Actually, we built a lot of this infrastructure in this town, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way, that we shouldn't have to go back to the drawing board when the program's in place. And people should start thinking about the seniors that want to live in their own homes. And furthermore, you should maybe, if you're worried about taxes, get after the people that owe you money. That's where you're falling behind. We had to pay taxes every year, all the years that we lived here.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I will just reiterate that this is not about eliminating the program. Like I said, we're about ensuring that the program is sustainable going forward. And we're not making any changes to this program lightly. We know it's important. We know it's a serious talk to the community, and we want to address it and work with the community and have community involvement. If we wanted to make changes without involving the community and having everyone in this room's input, we could have done that. We didn't have to have this meeting or come to this table, but we want your input. We want your ideas. We want your assistance with this. But it's something that needs to be looked at.
Seniors first. Seniors first. Hello. I'm just wondering, like, we never had this type of discussion before in all the years in Fort Smith. And it's about spending. Now, my question is that the town administration, do any of them have qualifications to operate a budget the size of Fort Smith? Like, I never heard any of them graduate from any reputable college in Canada, and all of a sudden they're giving out money. One person I heard has a signing authority of $10,000. They can sign a check without having to answer to it. Like, those are
I'm sorry, Mr. Herron, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you have a question about the seniors and disabled persons property tax?
Well, that is the question. It becomes property taxes is for money to be spent in Fort Smith, and they're related. Well, the money that you're trying to get from property taxes is to spend on different structures. And if the administration watched the money more, then it shouldn't be a problem of being taxed.
I think we'll hear that as a comment because I didn't hear a question directly about the seniors and disabled persons property tax. Go ahead, Richard. Oh, Barclay, follow up.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, the question was is the town administration qualified to run a town? Do they have any financial experience? Have they run a town before? That's what my is just, are they qualified?
I am not going to accept the question because it's not related to
It is related to it.
the bylaw.
It is related to it. How could it not be related to it?
I'm not saying you can't ask the question in general, but if you have questions that are not related, as discussed, as I read in the opening statement, if you have questions that are not related to the topics for discussion this evening, please connect with the mayor or a councillor, either by speaking with them or writing them a letter or delegating to mayor and council at one of their Tuesday evening meetings. We would like to keep the discussion focused on the topics at hand. Mr. McCurdy?
Doesn't work? Oh, there it is. Okay. I guess as a taxpayer for many years here, 37 years to be exact, and a senior, as there's many seniors here tonight. First of all, I'm kind of disappointed in your 60-second rule, which doesn't give people very much time to talk. But anyways, having said that, I guess part of my question would have been, are you planning on putting a cap on our land taxes so that you could only be eligible for so much per year, like if it's 2,000 or 3,000 as opposed to 10,000, depending on the price of your home?
As I indicated earlier, we've made no decisions on the program or how it will look in the future, other than the fact that it's been clearly identified that we need to look at the program. So that was something that was in place in the past. As you're aware, there was a $600 cap for the town's component of the program that was removed in 2009, I believe. And at that point, there was no cap. It was just an open-ended program. So that's something that may be looked at, but like I said, there's been no decisions on how the program will unfold. And until we have an opportunity to have discussions and look at the program as a whole and see how it can potentially roll out and where the areas are that need to be looked at clearly, and if that may potentially be an option in the future, but we haven't had that opportunity to have that formal discussion. And like I also said, we want to have the community's input on that, the seniors' input, and the other members of the tax base.
Okay, my next question is that I assume that you guys are looking at these taxes so because the town is short of funds. And have you looked at all avenues for the delinquent taxpayers of our community? Because having said that, I said I was a taxpayer for 37 years. Like, we carried the town and all their initiatives, as well as those people who are delinquent and paying their taxes. And now, as we're seniors, I mean, seniors have a concern, and I think it's a good one, you know, when they see something like this. Because a lot of seniors have lived on fixed incomes, you know, and have trouble if they have to pay another $2,000 or $3,000 taxes. You know, I can see a cap somewhere down the road if somebody has a $1 million home, you know, should they get the same tax benefit, whether it's 10,000 as opposed to another person who has a smaller home and pays maybe 3,000 or something. Something like that is kind of maybe uneven or unfair. You know, I think something that you'll probably have to look at somewhere down the road if it comes down to it. Now, I'd just like another minute here to provide a little bit of clarification for Shelto here. He asked about where this program came from, and he's wondering about, well, back in 1990 or somewhere around there, the territorial government instituted this initiative because of a few concerns. One of the concerns was a lot of people were retiring from the government and other places, and they were leaving the Northwest Territories because it was too expensive to live here. So they came up with this tax for seniors to keep the seniors in our communities and our towns. And the reason that they have a good reason behind it, because for every senior that leaves our Northwest Territories, the Northwest Territories government loses $35,500 from the federal transfer fund. And if it's two seniors, a guy and his wife, then it's up to $70,000 as well. They're also losing in our community here alone, the seniors. We provide a lot of spending money and spending power in our community. People have pensions, they have CPP, they have old age security, and they are the people supporting our stores, our grocery stores and restaurants and gas stations and garages and hardware stores and everything else in our community. And if all the seniors in our community left, this town and every other town in the north would be in pretty sad shape, as well as the territorial government too. So just a little bit of clarity.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, for that. I appreciate your comments. So I'll start with your first question regarding the delinquent tax accounts. So I've been involved with the council for a year now, and since my involvement and the new mayor and council were in place, the town has been aggressively pursuing delinquent tax accounts through auctions and other means. And at this current time, there are only 4 outstanding accounts that have tax arrears within the community. So I think that's a long way from where the list was a few years ago. And I think that the administration has done a really good job of pursuing those and trying to collect that bad debt. So I appreciate that comment. So as far as your comment around putting a cap on or suggesting a cap, like I said earlier, our goal here is to make the program sustainable. So if there was, so the way we've discussed the program is every senior that is entitled and eligible for the program should be able to access the program, right? So irregardless of your personal income or whatever, right? That's the discussion we've had, is that every senior or disabled person is entitled to the program, should be able to access the program. So we've never had any discussion other than that. The other point you raised was around a cap. So if you look at it from a perspective of putting a cap, and I'm not suggesting that this is the direction to go, I'm just trying to provide some information to everyone. So if you were to put a cap on at whatever level and say that the citizen ended up having to pay $500 a year in taxes, that works out to $1.17 a day. So I don't want to, I want to reassure people that we're not trying to sit up here and have all of the seniors pay taxes. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a program that's sustainable over time. And we have to look at that from a fiscal responsibility to the whole community. There's a whole tax base. It's not just who's eligible for this program. But every time that we add to the program, someone has to cover the difference, right? So that increases the burden on all of the other taxpayers. So from that perspective, we have to consider the whole community. And we want to consider not only the whole community, but we want to consider the vulnerable within our community. Because this not only impacts the people that have two solid income government jobs, it impacts the single mom at home or single dad at home with 3 young children trying to make a go, because that impacts them as well. So we have to consider all of those things and the whole community in this conversation. And it's not just a one-sided conversation.
Okay, I can speak like just like that. Okay, so very new to the Fort Smith, but just wanted to say a couple things. The longevity and everything growing, this number of seniors are definitely going up, not going down. And it's unilaterally saying that we are only looking at this problem at this point, tax-related issues. I understand for simplicity, but there are innovative ways of doing things, and actually lots of new programs are coming up saying that let the seniors age at home. And I'm talking this from my geriatric experience. I used to be a geriatrician. So has even town looked at the innovative programs, including research programs? I'm talking about things coming from Baycrest, where I used to work in Toronto. Rather than just increasing the taxes, there are number of innovative government programs, CMCHC funds. Has even town looked at all that? I'm just throwing this because I've come from a research background and I'm a geriatrician, and we all are going to be seniors one day or the other. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. And no, and that's part of the reason that we're having this meeting tonight is we want to know about those opportunities. We want to know about the other things and the other programs out there that can help support this initiative. So we want to have good ideas. We want everyone in this room to contribute, to give us an idea, to give us your thoughts, to tell us how you think this can work better and how it can be sustainable in the long term. And that's really why we're sitting here, is we want your input. Thank you.
Ria, did you have a question? Sorry, Bruce. Go ahead, Bruce.
One question. Is this issue being considered by other NWT communities? And if so, how many? Or is this unique to Fort Smith?
Yeah, sorry about that. So currently, Yellowknife operates the same program. They currently have a $2,000 cap on their program. Hay River also operates the same program. They're looking at possibly putting on a cap as well as not as removing the school tax from their program as well.
Good evening. My name is Victor Marie, and first time I come before council. And I know I am nervous to speak here because I know all the people in there, they all know me. For one thing, all the elders come here. You brought all the elders here. And elders, they get hard on hearing, and yet it's kind of hard to hear you people because of the sound in here. And it's been like that through different things that happen here. Anyhow, like Barclay was saying, it's all related. You come here and you say you want 3 topics. And you only get 60 seconds to speak. A lot of people come here, different things on their mind. I come here with a whole slew, a whole bag full of things on my mind for you people to hear. That's what you want to hear. You know, there's a lot of things that bother me that happened in this community. You know, it goes way back. It goes way back from when they took my father's land away from him in front of the arena. That was where we lived, right from the front door to the road. That was all our land. But they took it away from us.
Victor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
But anyway,
Do you have a
We're here to
question
talk about money.
about the
We're
seniors,
going to talk
senior
about
and
money.
disabled persons?
And like
property
Barkley
tax?
said, money is, it's all related to what you guys are doing there. And putting a cap on each and every one of us to speak, it's not right. You're speaking to elders here, and elders don't get out too often, and they don't speak too often. You know, I'm an elder, and I paid my share of land tax here. So I think I have the right to speak as long as I want, because I got a lot of things to say.
It's a town hall meeting, and we're trying to make room, create space for as many different people to speak, which is why there's a 60-second time limit
But
for
like the
questions.
people are saying, you know, like, don't hit the old people.
So there are
Leave
other
them alone.
avenues
Leave them
to
alone. There is other avenues to raise money.
there are
You-
other avenues to
you-
communicate with
You
your
could,
mayor
you
and
could
council.
make windmills and put those things on this building to save power.
Thank you,
know?
Victor. Can
And
we?
one thing I'm gonna say more is that graveyard. I don't know why they took that chain link fence down, because dogs are running through there and all the papers going through. You gotta do something about it. That's our elders, and that's the ones that built Fort Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Ria?
Hi. I have questions. I'm not sure if it falls in into your guidelines for the discussion we're having right now. But I do want to say that we should not interrupt these elders. It takes a lot of mind power to listen, to speak, and we may not be, as used to, how you guys are used to speaking and you have everything written down. Let's have a little respect for the elders here.
Good evening. I am new to Fort Smith. We've been living here only 1 year. And like every town, it seems that when you have trouble meeting expenses, you increase taxes. Everybody does that. I think what this town needs is that you diversify your economy. You have a BDC here. I think it's time that you really sit down with them and see what kind of economy Fort Smith can have. This is a beautiful town. You have a beautiful river. The scenery is great. I think it's time to really sit down and say, what can we bring here instead of increasing taxes? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I'll ask questions so that each time you answer with a yes or no, I get reset to 60. Is the current tax break open to people who are 65 and older? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. When you say vulnerable, does that mean people who are at different levels of income? Think about it.
Yes.
So would a tax on the seniors be based on their household income? If there is, I apologize, if there is a property tax for seniors, would it be based on their household income?
As I indicated before, no discussion has happened around the potential changes or not to the program.
Thank you. And finally, if it was based on household income, is it not true that when you go on a pension, your household income, regardless of what it was before you retired, is definitely less upon going on a pensioner's income.
And I'll say we have not discussed the program or the potential changes, so I can't answer that last question.
Mr. Holtorf?
Thank you. Through my study with municipal government, the thing that I was impressed with was that all taxpayers must be treated equally. And we are not here. My tax is $2,000. I can pick on Mr. Webb. Maybe his is $4,000. At the end of 10 years, he has $40,000. At the end of 10 years, I got 20. So that's not equal to everybody. So how they got around that was just like Yellowknife. They said, well, up to $2,000, it's free. But after that, you got to kindle up. That way, everybody is treated equally, and it meets that principle. And that's what the other two municipalities have done. Thank you.
We still do have a couple minutes left for this topic. John?
Not anymore. Thanks, Jay. I just want to go back to the bylaw you referred to here, the one that was signed in 1990. But it replaced another bylaw. You know when that one was written? So there was one before 1990.
Sorry, I did not know that.
Yeah, because it says right on it, this bylaw 408 is hereby repealed. This one took its place, so it was there before then. The other thing is that the $600 was never enforced. To my knowledge, it was never enforced in Fort Smith as a cap. And it was there, and that's why they threw it out. And when you talk about equal access to the program, I would hope that you would consider that there's going to be one application and one application only. We shouldn't have to reach a standard for the territorial government, like the lady was referring over here, and another standard for the municipality. Should be the same standard for both. If you go on the website of MACA, it's the same as your application here. So if that's enforced, there should be no problem. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. We did have a scheduled break for 5 minutes. I'm not sure if we'll do that, and then we'll move on to the next topic, which is the waste removal service level reductions. So we have 5 minutes. We'll reconvene at 8 o'clock. We will reconvene in 2 minutes. This is a 2-minute notice. All right, it is 8 o'clock, so we will resume.
Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. I just wanted to make a couple of comments around to kind of wrap up the seniors tax discussion at this time. So my apologies for not wrapping it up earlier. I should have probably done that before we broke. So like we indicated, no decisions have been made on the program. No decisions will be made on the program regarding this coming operational budget year, other than what we had indicated earlier around the school tax. So as we look at the program going forward, we want to engage the community, the seniors, and any other community members that are interested in providing some input to how this program moves forward. So that's our commitment to you here today, is that we're not going to come back to this group and say, here's what we're doing. We're going to come back to this group. We'll have options. We'll have thoughts. We'll have ideas. And we want your input now, anytime. Bring your input forward. Speak to one of the counselors. Speak to the mayor. Speak to the administration at Town Hall. Bring your ideas to the table. That's what we want to hear from the community. We want to hear, how can we make this program long-term sustainable for the community and not negatively impact other residents. That's what our goal is. Okay, so that's where we're at. Our commitment is we're not making changes to the program at this time. We want your input. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit our direction and our position at this time and where we want to go from here. So that was just, I wanted to wrap it up on that. Thank you. So I guess at this point we can move on to our next topic, which is possible reduction in services at the landfill. So I'll give a little bit of a background. So in 2021, the town received $1 million in federal funding for landfill reclamation and modernization. In 2018, the town began the process of designing modern waste management facilities, focusing on finding efficiencies and reducing our environmental impact. In 2018, an engineering consultant estimated the cost of closing or final cover of our existing landfill cell at $1.7 million, and the cost of opening a new cell was approximately $365,000. Additional work to modernize and upgrade our landfill will cost approximately $450,000. Our intention is to have a waste facility that reduces impact on the environment through diversion and more efficient use of the space in the waste cells. This means reducing what goes into the cells, reducing the volume of materials, and improving compaction to reduce airspace and waste pile, extending the life of the cells. Part of the modernization program will be to purchase a new waste collection truck, which will only require one operator and will use an automated arm and specialized bins. This will reduce the incredible physical stress on our staff. The staff will be working with the community to prepare for the reduction in. Okay, so that's a little bit of the background. We've discussed a possible reduction in garbage pickup to once a week as a potential way to save money and to assist in working toward modernizing our waste collection process. So as time goes on, we want to try and create less waste, to be more efficient, to be better environmental stewards, to reduce waste, to reuse, to create opportunities for recycling, to create opportunities for composting and these types of things. So this is all part of the waste management plan that is being discussed at this time. So the question that I would put to the community at this time is that something that you would consider as an option? Do you think that a reduction in service to the landfill is a potential option as a money saver? And the second question I would put to you, if you think that is not an option, do you think there's an area within the community where services could be reduced that would be an option?
Hi, If we do reduce the hours or reduce the amount of times the garbage is picked up in a month, I'm just wondering if that would be an attractant for wildlife, and was this looked at all?
Whether or not it would be attractant for wildlife, I don't know that I'm in a position to answer that question. It's definitely something that we will put on the topic of discussion as we look at whether this is a potential to move forward or not, but I think it's a very fair question. Thank you.
Well, I've had some experience with the garbage and this stuff in the past. I'm pretty sure if you start cutting back, I read tonight it's going to be a limit of 2 bags per garbage can per week. Well, where's the rest of the garbage going to go, Jay? That's a real big question. We've had trouble in the past with people hauling it out of town, throwing it in the bush, going into Alberta, throwing it in the bush. We don't want that. We've got to try and control that. So it's just, I don't think it's just an easy fix. It's just a cutback. And I think the town should be looking at a lot of other areas to cut back our costs. Fort Smith used to be 2,500 people. It's not 2,500 people anymore. But you know that that town hall has got a huge staff in it. Way bigger than we've ever had before. You know, I think that's a place that we should be looking at, putting a lot of justification into that, into those positions, and maybe doing some reducing there. Because the garbage people are the lowest common denominator in our labor force, and I don't see why they should be the first one to cut in a time of need. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you for that, Mr. Webb. Just to be clear, if the garbage truck service was reduced to once a week, it would not impact the actual staff. They'd be redeployed to work in other areas. So just to be clear, we're not looking at reducing or laying off staff in order to do a reduction in that manner.
I would like to know if you will give us some reassurance here, whether we're getting our garbage once a week or twice a week, that I'm not going to see those guys chasing a truck behind, trying to throw trash on and potentially injure themselves. Because one, we don't want to pay more taxes. We talk about how they're all important, so we have to fund it. So if we do that and start putting our money where our mouth is about dealing with our garbage responsibly, that's going to cost money. So is everybody prepared to pay double? I am, because I do value those guys that take care of our garbage. That's going to cost money. Nobody wants to even talk about 5 extra cents, but it's good to say we value all of that. But so can we get that reassurance that that area, regardless, will be properly addressed, whether there's an increase or a decrease?
Thank you for that question, Ms. Uhas. Yes, that is part of our plan as we're looking at the waste reduction and waste disposal process within the community. Part of our plan is to have a new modernized garbage truck that will eliminate the need for the guys to be hanging off the back of the truck at -40 and, you know, running up and down several miles a day, throwing heavy bags into the truck. So that's part of the plan. We've committed to that as we move forward and allowing us to have a service that is modernized and that will best serve the community.
Thank you.
Me? And then Linda?
If the service is lowered to 1 day a week, what does the town have in place to make it so people in Fort Smith can recycle more of their goods instead of throwing it into their garbage can? Is the town of Fort Smith gonna create a waste management place in the town where we could go and dump our plastic bags and our cardboard like they do in the cities? Because of the family of 5, that's I think there'd be garbage all over my front yard if I left it for one day a week.
Thank you for that question, Jeremy. So as we had this discussion around garbage and possible waste reduction, we also did have that discussion around recycling, the potential opportunities to recycle our waste, whether there's opportunities to compact our garbage by household, if there's ways that we can recycle other products within the community. So this is not something that if we were to go down that road, that we're going to jump into with both feet right out of the gate. We're going to provide education. We're going to provide information to the community. We're going to provide opportunities for the community members to be informed about ways to reduce waste, to be more efficient, to produce less garbage, to recycle products, and encourage that. So it's something that we've definitely taken into consideration as we've been talking about this. We understand that it's certainly an issue. We understand as well that it's not something that's going to be without some bumps in the road if it is a direction we choose to go. But I think as you look at, as things progress around the world and you look at the amount of waste and the amount of impact on the environment from plastics and other items that don't recycle easily, I think we have a responsibility to our children and our grandchildren to do our part. And I think this is one step that we can do as a community to do that, to bring that forward and to be, good stewards of the environment and to try and do our piece.
I think that's a great idea, and hopefully we can get this in place in the next couple of years before the landfill overflows and all the we never done recycling in I don't know how many years in Fort Smith. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for us. Thanks.
Would it be possible, speaking of waste disposal, that every person in the town of Fort Smith be provided a recycling bin, a compost bin, and a general waste bin? Other communities do it, other peoples do it. Why not implement that here if you're talking about having an automated garbage system? Is that a possibility?
I would say yes, that's a possibility. It's also another area that we've had discussion around. We want to encourage all 3 of those, in that the general garbage we'd want to reduce, and we want to encourage composting. We want to encourage recycling. So I think all of those are very viable options going forward. And I think they're, like I said, earlier, they're very wise decisions from the perspective of trying to protect and do our part for the environment. So I think it's a great suggestion, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lou, that's a good idea, but it'll be kind of hard, I think, especially in Fort Smith if you're only going to have 1 truck. Every time I go to Yellowknife there by Sobeys, when you drive by there, the old road there, you'll see bins there, big bins, big yellow one, big blue one, big green one. I always see people that are throwing paper here, plastic over here, and garbage over here. I think you should have that here in Smith, because Christmas is coming. There's not going to be more boxes than Those take up all the room in the garbage cans, and I was told long ago we couldn't put boxes in our garbage. So every time I had boxes, I'd rip them up small and put in a garbage bag. But then down the road, somebody will throw boxes and pick it up. So I think you got to have those big bins, big blue bin, yellow bin, red, whatever it may be, for different things so people could go, because it just ends up behind Britton Hall and JBT anyway. Bins.
Thank you, Victor. Yes, a very good idea. I think that's, and I think, again, it's something that is beneficial to the community and an opportunity to explore options for recycling all types of products. So thank you very much for the suggestion.
I had Pam and then Richard, and then, oh, Jason?
Who's up? Am I up?
I thought it was Pam, but she's pointing at,
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm just kind of curious about the rationale behind reducing to once a week. Like, is it as a cost saving measure? Because if we do that and you're moving the employees to another place, you're not actually reducing costs in that way. And also, when we're looking at recycling and all kinds of other options in terms of reducing garbage, that's going to cost money as well. So I'm just curious as to why reduce to once a week. Like, was that the intent behind it?
So the reduction to once a week isn't about a direct cost savings from the collection of the garbage. It's about a bigger concept in that how, as we evolve and develop our landfill and change it into a modern facility, this would be like the first step in that evolution, and in that it's going to take time to get the community to participate in the program the way it's going to be designed going forward. So start by reducing the amount of garbage that we're taking to the landfill. That hopefully will encourage the citizens to create less garbage, which in turn will be part of the whole process that will encourage recycling, that will encourage them to reuse or reduce or recycle the products. So it's part of a bigger picture, and the less, if we do pick up once a week, it also reduces the amount of garbage that's going into the landfill, with the life of the landfill, which is where the really big cost is.
Sorry. I'm just curious about the 1 week, because that's not necessarily reducing the amount of garbage in a household. So, like, are you going to collect less garbage? Are you only going to allow certain number of bags from each household? Or, like, how is that going to get resolved?
So we're hoping that by reducing to once a week, it would encourage people to create less garbage, to try and be more efficient, in that they're not overfilling their containers or packing their garbage in their house. That it's the first step in a process to try and change the way we do waste management. So do I sit up here and think I have all of the answers? I don't. What we're trying to do is start a process that will make things evolve in the future and how we deal with our waste. And this is a small step, hopefully in the direction that will start that conversation and start that process moving forward. Like I said earlier, it's not something that we plan on doing overnight. It's something that we want to consider for the community. We want to look at the options. We want to see what the pros and cons are. And if we were to try it and it doesn't work, then maybe we have to reconsider something else. But, you know, it's something that becomes part of an evolution of how we deal with the environment and how we become good stewards.
Richard? And then Jason, and then Jeannie.
Yeah, my question was similar to Pam's over there, was if you're redeploying your staff somewhere else and only picking up garbage once a week, where are the savings going to come into play? And then you say that we're going to be picking up garbage once a week and there'll be less garbage. Well, I think there's going to be twice as much garbage when you pick it up. It's going to be the same amount, unless the town comes up with a plan that, I know down south, when I go down with my son and he has garbage, we go down to the disposal area. They have cardboard in one place, they have wood in one place, garbage, and you might have to pay to dispose of this stuff. And otherwise, they have just their regular garbage pickup once or twice a week. But unless you're doing something else, relying on people to reduce garbage is just about impossible, because nothing's going to change. You create the same amount of garbage whether whether you pick it up once a week or twice a week, all it means is you're going to pick up twice as much on Friday instead of doing it Tuesday and Friday. So unless you come up with some other ingenious plan so that people can do some waste management with those bins like Fuzzy was talking about, and for cardboard, wood, whatever, and you dispose of that yourself. There's those kind of things, but otherwise, I don't see what good this reducing the waste disposal pickup for once a week's going to do.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if you guys have looked at other alternatives.
Yes, thank you, Richard. So yes, we are considering other things as well. Like I indicated earlier, recycling is a big part of reducing waste. So we have to look at all of those options. We have to consider how we reduce waste within the community. Recycling depots are a really good way. We've talked as a group about talking with the government of the NWT, talking with the local recycling depot to see if there are other opportunities that we could take advantage of. Reaching out to southern recyclers, there's opportunities to move recyclables to the south to reduce the waste within our community. So it's not a one-pronged approach. We're looking at other options as well. And like I said, it's not something that we're considering to roll out tomorrow. It's something that will also come with education and a discussion and other options to ensure that when we do make a change or decide to go down that road, that we have a solid plan in place that will hopefully work.
Okay, the only other thing I want to add to that is that if you go forward in that direction, the people, let's say, have only 2 garbage cans, there's going to be garbage sitting outside the can for a week. Kids or whatever are going to be spreading it all over. I mean, that's something that seriously has to be looked at, because as it is now, we pick it up twice a week. People have bins, containers, whatever, and it's manageable. But like you say, if there's a learning curve, in the meantime, our town and beautiful town won't be so beautiful after that. So anyways, just food for thought.
Comment in support of the stuff and what everybody's been saying about recycling and whatnot here. I know personally in our household, I hate seeing all those salsa jars and yogurt containers and all that stuff going in the garbage here. So we wash them out, bin them up, stick them in some tubs until we head south. COVID times, we had quite a few, and then finally going to Yellowknife, so brought them all up there. But family of 4, we've got 2 medium garbage bags a week going out to the garbage. So makes a big difference, and stuff that's not ending up in our dump. So recognizing up here in the north, the economics of shipping some of that stuff out makes it not entirely attractive. But like you said, if it's the cost of rebuilding a landfill, then it maybe does become a lot more attractive. So it can make a big difference just on a personal basis right now. And as we roll that across the community, it'd be great to see and really cut stuff down.
I had Jeannie and
down.
I had Jeannie and then Rhea, but either. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Thank you. Fort Smith always prided themselves as one of the beautiful communities in the north. We were always a very clean community compared to many other communities that I've traveled through. And I found since they put the fence around the dump, we got a lot more bears in town looking for garbage. But I think if you're going to look at once a week and a truck that's going to just take one driver and it's going to automatically pick up the garbage can, those garbage cans are specialized garbage cans. And then that means an additional cost for residents to meet the need of those garbage cans. So I think really the town needs to look at composting seriously, because we've got good growing season. And the other point that I think they need to really look at is an overflow area for our garbage, if you're going to look at once a week. Because there are some families that just won't be able to cope with 2 garbage cans pickup once a week. If you want to maintain a beautiful town, you have to look at measures to make sure that we all can work collectively to make sure that it's kept clean. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I just address your fence comment first. So the fence around the dump is part of the water license requirement, so that's why it was put up. It's regulated, it's not by choice. And I do agree with your comment. The cost of the bins is something that will be looked at in the program as to how that will flow out and how that will be charged back or how that will look toward the community over time. None of those discussions have actually happened yet. So it's on the plan going forward, but we have to look at how that will work and how the cost will be addressed.
Yeah, and then Sholto and then Bart.
I was just wondering if you guys talked to Yellowknife at all about the recycling at all? No? Yeah, no?
So yes, our staff, our Director of Municipal Services has been in a conversation with Yellowknife about their landfill, about their recycling program. Part of the design that we're looking at for our landfill will include some of those concepts, as well as a recycling area is in the plan so that items that may be taken to the landfill. I know back in the day when I was a young man here, or a teenager here, we used to go to we called it Tiffany's was the dump, right? So we'd go out there and we'd shop around and look for good stuff. But we're looking to put an area that when items are dropped off, if they're reusable items, that they can be placed in a certain area within the landfill so that others can come and look. And if it's something that someone else can use, it can be recycled in that way. And then over time, if there's no uptake on it, then it could be put into the landfill. But so we are looking at lots of different options to modernize the facility going forward and ensure that we're utilizing the space, that we're being proactive in how we're disposing of the waste, ensuring that we're properly recycling what we can, that we're properly crushing what we can, that we're properly looking after all of it. So that's part of the big picture plan of how we will manage it going forward.
Cool. So you'll have a metal ram that makes bales out of metal? Is that being looked at?
I can't speak to the whole entire plan at this time, but certainly if that's some information you'd like, we could get you a better idea of what the whole plan is.
Cool. I was just thinking, like, I think it was last year, Yellowknife could not get rid of their cardboard down south for some reason. So I'm thinking maybe if we do the recycling, to have a chipper or something to recycle that cardboard in town, like for composting.
Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, I think that I was just told that that is something that is in the consideration of some of the cardboard as part of the compost pile to help with the aeration and to incorporate it that way and to try and do as much of the recycling as possible.
Thanks.
Well, one of the things that I think that happens when you're dealing with surplus garbage, trash, you're going to end up with problem wildlife. And with problem wildlife, who's going to do the enforcement? Is it going to be something that's going to be on the bylaw? Because with global warming, there's a lot of stress and pressure put on our resources with the GWT. And a lot of our resources, sometimes you're well aware, could be shared with other parts of Canada. And when you're dealing with wildlife and you have firearms, not necessarily one individual can go in there and handle the problem at hand. So you're going to have at least two officers And when we're in the summer, and wildlife is seasonal at times, but this garbage is going to be there all the time. Now, a lot of that burden is going to be have to put on your bylaw enforcement. And you have to be prepared for that, because I don't think you can count on resources from another agency.
Thank you for the comment, Shelto. I think that's definitely an area that will need some further discussion.
I had Bart and then Dana and then Clayton.
I just want to make a comment is that if you're looking at reducing garbage pickup during the week, you're going to also have a plan for dealing with refuse that gets deposited in the bush and on the riverside and outside of town. That'll go along and join with the fridges and stoves and couches that are already being dumped out there. It needs to be part of the plan. And just to tag on to what Shelto said, wildlife needs to be considered on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart.
I'll let Clayton go first.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank the town and the folks here for the meeting. Tax break, of course. The tax break unity in a community, and it's a very sensitive thing, and it's the start of all of our programs, of course. So it's really important to have better consultation with the general public, and especially if you're concentrating on the seniors, that I'd like to see further meetings with seniors so that they're gathering the proper information, and get the minister or the deputy minister of housing down here and get them involved, because that's where the money comes from, is through Yellowknife. Oh, you got to fine tune it, eh? Okay, the GNWT and the federal government gives social programs funding, and we're not just talking about Susie or Bill's or Joe's house, we're talking about a family's home. So people are very sensitive to this topic. And the question keeps coming up, why the hell are we short of money? Well, when you look at the lawyers that are paid by the town, they take a lot of the money. The incidents with destroying a building that was privately owned, tearing down other buildings, it starts digging into your finances. There's no getting away from it. And I'd like to see more town meetings for the citizens, especially the old timers. And there's very little communication in town since the Journal, the newspaper, shut down. And I don't see where the newspaper in Yellowknife is doing us any favors by getting information into the community. Some people might think that, well, it's okay because they can look at the computer at home and get it off the internet, but a lot of us don't have that ability to do it. I'd like to see a town financial committee with citizens' involvement, get more involvement of the citizens in there, and really get a better feel for what the community is really thinking and what the people want or what they really need. In this town, we don't even make a toothpick, so we wonder what the hell are going to come from if we're going to be taxed further. You have to start thinking of unity of purpose for the citizens and families. The NWT program seems to give, and now the town is wanting to take. I'm not blaming the town. I'm saying that coming here and just thinking, what the heck is going on? I jotted down a few points that I wanted to cover with you. And one of the things that government at all levels, including the town, has an obligation to create work so that we have taxation that we can afford, and that tax will make us a better community. And I think that we have to get more involvement. Like my old friend, the first mayor of town, he went to Ottawa, and before you know it, we had money here because he went direct to the ministers and to the Minister of Indian Affairs, who wrote the checks for the territorial government. And of course, when he was in, that was a bit before there was a territorial government. But the territorial government is pretty exotic in its setup between the vehicles you see them driving. Even the town itself has a big expense there. So we have to get more tax money to cover transportation and services. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the meeting.
You're welcome, Clayton. This is only the first meeting that we ever had, I think, with a membership, because it's very important and we want to get your input on it. But also moving forward, I don't know with council, but I'm looking at probably having another meeting within 3 weeks to get some answers. I would like it done before we get into January. I would like to get into some good discussions here and come up with something that we could take a look at and then change if we need to change.
Dana, did you have a question?
Yes,
And then Frida?
Sorry, this is a question from our live stream. Thank you for your question. What is the council doing to work with the community to raise awareness about different ways to reduce waste?
So that was part of our discussion in last month's committee meeting, was to look at ways to promote recycling and waste reduction within the community over the next period of time. If we were to go to the reduced garbage pickup, we would want to do an advertising campaign and an awareness campaign to ensure that we were providing all of the required information so that the community was aware of the opportunities, that we could explore opportunities to create areas that could collect and gather recycling, and to be an active participant in that whole process so that the community is educated on or given the information that they need to be good stewards and to be good participants in the program as we move forward.
Thank you for everybody coming out tonight. Madam Moderator, I think it's very fair that the seniors have a say when they get up here and not be limited to 60 seconds, because the chair that's doing this meeting is speaking much longer than that. And one of the things that I want to say is I'm constantly getting up in the House and advocating on behalf of the seniors of this community, because the per capita of seniors is the largest in the Northwest Territories, and we're very proud of that. You know, because that means that Fort Smith is a beautiful community that everybody wants to stay and grow old here. Every one of us want to do that. I don't believe that there should be any means tests for any senior of any type. We should not be cutting services at all. We're trying to build a community, both economically and for tourism and for everything else. And, you know, so I have a real problem, and I want to address the mayor. Mr. Mayor, I would like you to answer these questions. One of them is, we just had an election a couple of years ago now, and you know, the seniors had a big say in that election. And seniors have a large say because they give us the knowledge from the past. And I want to know if you believe that that knowledge is credible and respectful, because I believe that personally that's part of my mandate. I would like you to answer that, Mr. Mayor.
No, I know exactly when I ran who put me in here. Nevertheless, we have a problem in front of us of taxes. And it's a touchy situation because there's seniors there and there's seniors that are just getting over the threshold barely. So how do you do that? But in all of us sitting down and we coming up with an answer to move into the future where it's all sustainable for everyone, you know, that's what we're asking. We need your help on looking at that. Now, to be really honest, previous mayors and councils could have dealt with this matter, right? But they didn't because they didn't want to get you guys mad. They shuffled it under the table. Well, this council is not like that. This council wants to meet with you and say, where are you? We have a problem here that we need to go through and we need to fix. The reason I'm saying that is because in 4 more years, you got baby boomers like me who's going to turn 65. How could this town sustain that? We need to come up with a system that's going to work. That's you know, and we need to ensure that seniors are staying in their home. And we need to make sure that the vulnerable is looked after. But we also need to look after the younger youth that are coming up and working here, that they can afford their mortgages and everything. You know, and it's all of this that we need to put our heads together. You know, I'm not sure when the town ever had a meeting like this. I asked my guys and they said, well, I don't know. So, but this is the right thing to do. You know, and I was taught earlier, when you get into trouble, you always go to your bosses. I need your help. That's what they're there for. That's a two-way street. Always was, always will be. And that's where we are today. And, you know, I believe we could get through this, you know, because in time we're not going to sustain it. And I don't want to wait till then. I want to deal with it now. I don't want to wait for the next mayor and council to come. Because what if they don't want to deal with it again? Then where are we? You know, and as elected officials, we're not only put in here to answer the easy questions. There's times where it's going to be hard and it's going to be very difficult. But nevertheless, we have to go through that stage. And yes, I believe in the seniors. This is really touchy. You know, and I think that we could come up with some kind of strategy that will work and it'll be sustainable for aging people in the future again. Just the way we're going, we're going to have a rough time. And I don't want to wait till later to deal with it. I want to do it now. So thanks.
So, you know, there's a lot of, like, I remember even the 24-bed facility that's coming to Fort Smith hasn't been cut back because of the per capita of the seniors. And it is on target. Every other facility has been cut back, but not Fort Smith. So that tells you that the seniors have there's a large population here, and we cannot cut back on services. We're trying to rebuild the community, and cutting back on services is not the way to go. So I don't know where you're getting that idea from, but people are not happy with once a week garbage pickup and some of these other things. There's got to be other ways that are more innovative to address the problem. And you know what? Criticizing past mayors is not going to get your mandate complete, because the seniors are not happy. I've heard it all over town this week. And I don't know how you're going to deal with that. I'd like to know how you're going to deal with that, Mr. Mayor.
Question again?
I said, how are you going to deal with this when the seniors are not happy?
Well, that's basically why we're here tonight, is to feel them out and to see where they're coming from. Like, no decisions has been made, but we need their input. So hopefully by getting their input and going back and then council doing their stuff and then coming meet with the seniors again until we get it.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you saying that this is part of consultation And if it's part of consultation and then you go and make a decision that is not satisfying the people of this community, including the seniors, that you're still going to go do it anyways? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, that's what council exactly does not want to do. And we're here to listen to you, and we'll go back, and then we'll come back and meet with you again until we get it right. We're not going to leave the residents alone and do our own thing. No, we're not going to do that.
My question is, will we be talking about other programs and services under Section 2, aside from the waste management?
Yes, if there are other programs or services you feel are relevant in this discussion, we'd certainly be interested in hearing any thoughts or ideas that the community
I would
has.
like to speak on behalf of the daycare program of the town. Yeah. So around town, I've been hearing mention of the daycare system. A lot of people are in favor of it as long as it doesn't cost taxpayer any dollars, or as long as it's profitable. I'm here as a mother of 3 who desperately need the daycare, and so have other parents in the town here. We've been talking about revitalizing our town. However, it's very difficult today in 2022 to be a single income family with one parent staying at home taking care of the kids. Because of that, we have 2 parents working in order to afford a house, which we need so we can pay property taxes, make the town fruitful. Unfortunately, because the lack of daycare in the town, it's been difficult for people to have 2 incomes, purchase houses. It's been also difficult to retain people in our town, so people are not able to move to Fort Smith for employment because there's either no housing or there's no daycare. So I just want to reiterate the importance of the childcare program from the town. I'm very thankful that it exists, and if ever cuts have to be made, I'm hoping that they will never be made in the daycare area, as it is essential for our town to prosper. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, so I can quickly speak to the daycare. So currently the daycare is fully subscribed in all programs and is a self-sustaining program. So we've maxed out our capacity. We can't grow any further, and we're hoping that as the Métis daycare opens, they'll be able to take some of the folks that are currently still on a waiting list. So thank you for the comment.
Am I allowed to follow up? So sorry, is that okay? Thank you so much. I guess the question following up this is that if ever for some reason there was a small deficit in the daycare for a short period of time, would we still have the support of council and the town to offer that service? Because it is absolutely necessary for people to have employment in the town and then purchase houses and stay in Smith. So this right now it's doing well, it's fantastic, but if ever we lose support, will council still support the existence of the daycare? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to speak for all of my colleagues, but I think that the town has shown their support of the program to this point, and I don't know that decisions around that program would be that short-sighted, if you will. There would certainly be, all areas would be considered before we made that type of decision. Thank you.
Sorry, just before Bruce goes ahead, we are past time. I don't know if we want to take this one last question and then wrap things up for this topic before we move on to the next one. Okay. Bruce, go ahead. Bruce and then Denise.
It's more of a comment. You did bring up a fully automated truck with an arm to pick up a container. They work on a standardized garbage can or whatever. The cost for one that will not shatter at our temperatures during the winter is pretty exorbitant. I do know of a community that got kind of creative, and they kind of dealt with some of the waste problem at the same time by cutting part of the sidewall or the tires, putting them over 45-gallon drums, and had their summer kids program decorate the drums. It dealt with some of the tires, some of their 45-gallon drums, and they're all standardized, and it turned out to be cheaper than buying the actual garbage cans. So you please start thinking outside the box in some of these areas. There's other ways to go about things than just throwing money at it and stuff.
Thank you for your comment, Bruce, and that's definitely what we're looking to hear from the group tonight is ideas. I mean, we're not dismissing or not considering any ideas brought to the table. We will give everyone fair consideration.
No, while we're going to hold everybody's feet to the fire here, including ourselves as consumers, Clayton touched on it. You touched on it when you opened the discussion. We're underfunded by 3-point-something million a year, right? Did I hear that right?
$0.5 million a year underfunded from the GNWT, correct?
So have there been any discussions from the elected official, Frida, our MLA, to you, trying to help with solutions to get some of that money to help protect some of the services that we're talking about? Has any of that happened? And if not, can I get a commitment from you that you will reach out and that discussion will happen?
So the NWT Association of Communities and the LGANT group are sitting on a funding board, talking with the GWT around funding options, but they have had no commitments from the government of the Northwest Territories at this time. When this government was elected and came into power, part of their mandate was to close the funding gap with the communities, and there's been very little progress in the life of this government toward that end. So we continue to lobby for that. We continue to work toward that through the Association of Municipalities and as a community government. So it is something that we have on our radar and we are trying to pursue.
So didn't answer my question. RMA sound, if you got out a strategy to close up this gap and try and be able to continue to fund our services? That's my question.
No, we have not had that discussion, but we'd certainly, as a mayor and council, be open to that meeting and to have the opportunity to discuss the options and where there is potential to support this community. As she spoke very supportive of the seniors, I think it would be an opportunity to stand behind those seniors and see if there is an opportunity to find some funding to support these programs.
It's about all the programs. Like what we're talking about right now is not just about one group. It's about the entire community. And I'm talking about the fact that we're underfunded, all of us. So thank you. And hopefully we'll get a commitment and some feedback on how that goes or how we lobby that part of the government moving forward.
Thank you for that.
I think it's important to point out that this is not a new problem. The municipalities across the Northwest Territories have been underfunded for years. A number of years ago, the MACA department came out with something called a New Deal. And it was the first time ever that the municipalities were given capital funding to manage their own capital projects. Prior to that, if you wanted to build a parking garage or something or buy a new garbage truck, it went into the capital plan for the whole of the Northwest Territories. And you competed against schools and roads and airports and whatever else. So municipalities got very little. Since the New Deal, you're getting over, I can't remember what was on the paper, but $1.8 million, I think, for capital funding. It was very clear that there is no O&M attached to that. The municipalities have been underfunded for years, and the government has been open about that. And nobody ever gets everything that they ask for. But for the tax-based municipalities, they expect that you should be able to generate taxes, you should be able to generate income sources from other places. And there are a lot of, you're talking about going green, there's all kinds of funding out there. It just means being creative. So I think rather than, asking the GNWT, which is also struggling to meet their own budget for more money, you're better off to look at how creative can we be to support ourselves. And raising taxes isn't the only answer. You need to take out your pencils and get creative. Maybe one of the things we need to look at is it necessary for every person at the town hall to have an assistant? Because if you look on the web, I was blown away. We have 2 economic development officers in this town. There's 2 of everything at the municipal facility. I used to work for the town and there were 5 of us. And the population hasn't changed since then. We used to work out of the old fire hall. There was no room for more than 5. And in fact, our MLA was one of those 5 working back then. You should remember that. There were just 5 of us there and we managed the town. It was the first time that we ever paved the roads that year. And the Queen came to visit us. We were able to manage it. I don't know why we need 40 plus people or however many it is that you've got. It's a long list and everybody has an assistant. That's not good planning. I really think that if you're going to look for saving dollars, maybe that's the first place you need to look. Get a little more efficient.
Thank you for your comment. I'll only speak to one area of that, in that, so you were aware, the town has we are trying to be very creative and find alternative funding sources. It's not always an easy process, and there's a lot of strict parameters around a lot of the programs as to what you can do or can't do. So, and a lot of the three federal dollars for one community dollar, we would still require that community dollar, right? So just because a funding source is available, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have the funds available to access it. So that was the only comment I had. So maybe just to wrap up the discussion on the proposed once a week garbage pickup, I think we've heard a lot of very good comments and suggestions about this, and I think our group, Mayor and Council, will consider this as part of discussions going forward, and at the questions that were raised, do some additional research, see what the opportunities are as far as recycling and environmental friendly options going forward and ways to reduce our waste. But we really do appreciate the input from everyone in the room and all of the comments and suggestions. Thank you.
We will break for 5 minutes before we reconvene to discuss property tax increase. So we will reconvene at 9:08, according to my This is just a notice. We'll convene in 2 minutes.
Rowdy, yeah. Could we return to our seats now? If you don't mind. Ready to go again. Property tax and user fee increases. Okay. Property taxes are a significant portion of our annual revenue. They are an essential part of the financial equalization in all municipalities, and present a shared cost of all services and infrastructure that we use. As costs grow up, we must find a way to cover these costs either through property tax, or using user fees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess this is the portion of the program where we're going to talk about potential increases in property taxes, or perhaps there's some areas of service that we could look at reductions in, or do we increase user fees? But like the mayor indicated, at the end of the day, we need to balance the budget. We need to ensure we have appropriate funds available to continue to revitalize our aging infrastructure within the community. A lot of the infrastructure within Fort Smith, unfortunately, was all built at the same time. So it has a tendency, it's all starting to come to end of life or have failures at the same time. So this is a significant challenge for the community to ensure that we have the proper funds and resources in place to be able to deal with this as time goes. So a big part of this discussion around funding and as we move forward is not just about our O&M and our daily day-to-day operations. It's about the sustainability of our infrastructure and ensuring that we have the resources to be able to replace and keep that infrastructure up and running. So there's some significant pieces within the community that are coming due for replacement. We've done a lot of work in the last year on the water intake, the roads, etc. The town's fire hall is in dire need of replacement. That's a few years out yet, but that's probably a $7 million project. So these are just some of the examples of things that we have to look at going forward and determine a way that we're able to fund these projects. So that's part of this discussion and part of some of the reasons that we need to look at ways to generate more revenue. So I had a small list here of some of the nice things that the town does for the community, and I just don't know that everyone's really familiar with what those cost. So I'm just going to go through my list and sort of give everyone an idea of what the cost is associated with some of the nice to haves that we have. So every year the Power Corp assists the town and puts up those beautiful ornaments on all the power poles around town. Well, the annual cost that the Power Corp bills the town of Fort Smith for that, depending on if there's bulb replacements, et cetera, required, is between $15,000 and $20,000. That's the bill that we pay to the Power Corp for that. They don't donate that anymore. They used to at one time. It used to be a complimentary service, but it is no longer. So just to put that into some context, so that equates to a 4 to a 5% tax increase for that one activity. 0.4 or 0.5%. So almost a 0.5% of a tax increase to continue with that one activity. So some of the other nice to haves. So first night fireworks, everyone likes the fireworks on New Year's Eve. That's $12,000. Canada Day, that's $27,000. Donations, so the town supports various clubs, sporting activities, other different organizations within the community. Annually, that's $74,000 in donations that the town provides to all of these user groups. We also donate facilities. So the use of facilities, the Laurie Hobart volleyball tournament is a prime example. The rec center is donated for that event. We also support other groups through zero or low-cost leases in our facilities, senior society, curling club, minor hockey, old timers, ladies hockey, etc. So the town provides a lot of services and support to the community. That money has to come from somewhere. And that's some of the basis for the fact that if we want to continue with that level of service and that level of commitment from the town to the community and to the organizations, then as a community, we have to figure out how we're going to fund that. So I'm interested in hearing comments or questions from the group on what their thoughts are around this. Do you think that some of these nice to haves are something that we'd be willing to give up as a community as opposed to having a tax increase? Or are there other things that would be better consideration, perhaps raising the fees? I know a lot of the fees for some of the single parents or families that don't have too large government incomes are somewhat of a challenge already. So do we want to increase those and then reduce the users or the ability for our more vulnerable community members to access our facilities? Is that an option? Is that something that everyone's happy with so they don't have to pay that 1 or 2 or 3 or 4%? So I'm interested in seeing what the community thinks and what your kind of options you propose would be acceptable to you. Thank you.
So I think it's pretty clear, we're going to pay more. And that's fine for us that are still working, and we're going to pay more for those services. One thing, though, might not be the most popular thing to say here, but if we can't afford to have them parties anymore, maybe we need to stop. And I have said that about the town going to ITI. That's just another government pot, getting money so that we can have some kind of a, it's nice to have, but that's all money that's sort of going out the back door that could be coming in the front door to do the things that we actually need. So we need to tighten up everywhere. And if people want to have whatever it is, $25,000 candidate, start recycling. Donate all your recycling. I mean, I don't mind paying more, but I'm not interested in being part of paying more so that we can donate $75,000 so adults can go somewhere else when there's 2 of them working or whatever. I don't want to nag on that. The increases that we are probably going to pay should go directly into a fund to address this infrastructure issue that you're talking about. I believe that we do have that, and it's the stuff we can't see. It's the stuff under the ground. So all those 75 cents on the dollar don't mean a darn thing if we don't have the 25 cents to contribute. So if we're going to increase it, I would like a commitment or a plan that that increase does not go for a party. It goes for the infrastructure or what it's intended to. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
What do I do? Oh, now oh, yes. I merely, Jay, want to correct something that you said. The seniors have not had a room in this facility for over 2 years. The town never paid a penny for any item or equipment that was in the seniors' room. Every fridges, stoves, television, et cetera, were all paid for by the seniors. All the furniture was paid for by the seniors. And the seniors, there was a lease, and we paid a monthly fee. So I want to eradicate the notion that any of the monies that were coming to the town came in our direction. And even the room initially, the seniors in this town before I was here, but it included B. Campbell, who is here, raised money, which was today's equivalent of $64,000, with the understanding, which we have in writing from the mayors of that time, who was Dennis Bevington, that would be a seniors' room in perpetuity. So I'm really merely sharing the accuracy of one of the comments that you made, just because the seniors do care about those things. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And I guess my comment was more of a generality that the support that the town gives to these different organizations is not necessarily in dollars and cents that are handed or given. And I appreciate the seniors' contribution. And I know there was a lot of very hard work done in regard to the senior room. My comment was more in the fact that recreation, all of that type of activity within the community is highly subsidized. If we had to charge for what it costs to run this facility or to run the arena or to run other facilities, we would have no recreation. So that was all that my comment was intended to mean. Thank you.
Richard and then Jeremy.
Yeah, my question is that I know in our town we have aging infrastructure regarding water and sewer. Is that I hope, maybe it's not a question, but I'm hoping that the town does some planning. There seems to be lack of planning because in the past they paved over all these streets where there was the aging infrastructure. And next thing I see them digging it up and replacing it and then repaving again. So I hope the town takes a serious look at the streets and don't pave any more streets that have the aging infrastructure. Whether it gets rough or not, it's one of the things we have to live with. It'd be nice to have, those are nicer things, but if you're paving over streets that haven't had the water and sewer replaced, then we're just wasting our money. Running a town is no different than running your home. You have to look at what you can afford, what you need. Do I really need this, or is it just nice to have? You know, and the other thing I see is, that was the question, was that, are you not paving over any of that infrastructure?
No, there is a plan for the infrastructure replacement. And I think what you're referring to is the situation that happened on Portage Avenue. And that was something that was not of the norm. So I can't speak to that directly. I don't have, I wasn't directly involved. But I think if that's a question you'd like answered, please forward it to the town and we'll provide you with a response.
And the next thing I had was, I see, talking about budgets there, the town has an ad for replacement of 2 boilers down in the yards over there somewhere. And anyways, one of the things I was thinking, I don't know if you guys have a maintenance plan or a capital plan that, you know, where you look at your equipment and say, well, we have 2 boilers here. Why don't we replace one? Because that's what we can afford today. And if you have a capital plan, 5 years down the road, you replace the other one. And then 20 years down the road, you're not replacing the same equipment at both of them at the same time like you're doing now. And it's the same with your pumps down in the lift station at the river. There's talk about replacing those pumps. Do you need to replace both? Can you replace one now and another one 5 years down the road or whatever?
Yes, thank you for that comment. So there are a couple of things I can say to that. So in some instances, the replacement of that type of infrastructure is directly related to the funding. So there are certain types of funding or pots that have time limits on it, so the work must be done by a certain point in time. The other one regarding the replacement of the pumps, I can't speak that directly. I don't know what the plan is, but I know there is a plan for the infrastructure replacement and how it's all tied together with life cycle. Oh, that thing's echoing. And the town is currently developing and working with a new asset management program that will put all of the assets into one system that will track all of that through a modernized system. So that's part of the ongoing process that they're working on right now.
Okay, I think that answers my question, that you have an asset management program that you're starting. Is that what you're telling me? Where you inventory all your equipment and you age it and whatever, and you have a plan somewhere down the road for replacement, whether it's vehicles, houses, or water and sewer or whatever?
Those plans already exist. There is a capital capital plan that goes out 20 years is looked at annually. The asset management software is a migration from an old paper. Asset management software is a migration from an old paper version, how things were managed, into a more modernized, intuitive program that will assist in identifying maintenance cycles and that sort of thing. So it's moving the operation into the 21st century, essentially.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy and then Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Beamish. Actually, I'd like to speak to this young man and this young man here in terms of people generating and bringing revenue into this community. They're young, they're starting new families, starting businesses. So when you look at these people, I'd like you to come back with some kind of initiative for taxes so that these people can flourish and continue to do the things that they're doing. So we have houses for the people we want to hire, and we have someone to fix our machinery when we need it fixed. So I'd just like you to think about that.
Yes, thank you for that comment. So this is a discussion that has happened around between the mayor and council on numerous occasions, and we've talked about as we all know, housing shortage is certainly an issue within the community. We don't have a lot of opportunity for new homes. We don't have places for people to live that get employment opportunities here. So through our different boards and through the mayor and council, we've had this conversation. We've discussed looking at other ways to encourage development, to try and support contractors, local contractors, developers to come in to invest in this community to ensure that we can thrive and we can improve our housing situation and we can get that investment. I mean, this has been traditionally a government town for a long time, but government doesn't last forever. We need to look at other ways to expand our opportunities here, and housing is a big part of that. And young companies like Mr. Beamish's are prime example of how this community has an opportunity to flourish and to move forward. And I think the town and the mayor and the rest of the councillors were in favor of looking to try and identify opportunities to assist with that, as you said. And you know, we're here, we want to listen, we want to talk, we want to find ways to encourage development, to make this town grow, to try and get beyond that 2,500 people threshold. So come to the table, come and talk to us. You know, we want to listen, we want to help, so.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the seniors that stayed here, well, to finish this meeting. And, you know, it means a lot to us taxpayers in Fort Smith to let you guys hear hear what we have to say. As for raising taxes, I understand that inflation's going up and we got to raise taxes, but I don't think we should be raising the fees at the municipality level, just because it affects a lot of people's mental health when they can't get out there and come and play volleyball at night, go to the swimming pool. You know, if we raise those, to me, they're already expensive enough. They should be free in a small town like Fort Smith. You go up north to Delaney, they got free range of the whole rec center all hours of the night. So I don't see why we can do that. Thanks for your 15 seconds, Jess, but I'm a young adult in Fort Smith, and I'll keep talking. Thanks. As for the raising taxes, we developed the West Grove, 10 years ago? Out of the West Grove, there's only been 2 local people that had built houses. No, sorry, 3 out of those 20 lots. The Housing Corp actually just purchased 2, and they developed the 2 houses right away. There is 10 lots sitting unempty. So in 10 years, in all honesty, those lots cost us taxpayers $1 million at, say, $3,500 a year. I think we need to look at developing those lots and the town of Fort Smith has to lower the rate of the lots. So people like myself could develop a house and not pay outrageous for the land. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for that comment, Jeremy. And I agree totally. I think that that is very true. So we have been discussing ways to try and make those lots more affordable and accessible because like you said, you know, it is costing the town money every single year that they sit vacant in taxes that we're not collecting, etc. So that's something we want to look at as a program, and we're looking to acquire additional land within the community to create more lots that will encourage more opportunities to build and possibly, hopefully, at a more affordable price. So definitely something that is on our radar. We've had numerous conversations about it, and we want to encourage that. We want to support the development. So like I said, you know, come to the table, come and talk, have a discussion with the mayor and council. You know, we want to listen. We want to find a way to encourage that. So we're open to ideas.
Also, another question: if you know the Christmas lights is costing the town of Fort Smith $15,000 to $20,000 a year, maybe the town of Fort Smith needs to start looking at solar panels so we could take that money away from Power Corp instead of them upping all our rates to outrageous. Because as it is, the town of Fort Smith is going all to electric boilers, which is not feasible. And I don't care what anybody says. Electric heat is unfeasible at this moment. And in all honesty, diesel is too. So I don't know what the better option is, but if they're going to spend $20,000 and charge us taxpayers $20,000 to do that, there should be a funding pot out there that us taxpayers donate to if that is something we want to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy. A very good suggestion, and I think we can certainly explore that. Currently, the town, to your other point, the town is working on a housing study, and they're looking for interested participants. So if you're interested in participating, part of this study is identifying ways to encourage development, to support local contractors. So, you know, we need the input of people like yourself and other people that are interested in developing within this community. So if you're interested, we'd really like to hear from you. So thank you again for your comments. Much appreciated.
Good evening. Just wanted to, you know, I understand that as a town, we cannot run a deficit, and there are definitely issues out there between revenues and costs and balancing the budget. I was just wondering if there is any way the town as a whole can look at the financials for the current period and the previous period, and then that way the entire town can chip in and identify areas where they think that, you know, expenses could be cut or revenues could be raised. But with the scant data that is being put out there right now, it's very difficult to make any judgment or pass any judgment on it. If we had access to the town's statements for the previous 2 years and the current budget, maybe there could be, you know, more intelligent analysis done on that and some more help given to the mayor and the council. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. I'm sorry I didn't hear it totally, but we have it recorded, so I will definitely play it back to myself so I can ensure that we've captured everything that you said. But we appreciate your input.
Thank you. Just some food for thought sitting here tonight. just trying to understand the focus of tonight, and in each topic, like the seniors, the user fees, and now the property taxes. So I expected when I came here tonight to see your capital plan, your budget, because I know that you have to send your budget to the GNWT and it has to be balanced. So I'm just wondering, because you're talking about in the paper that you provided, you're talking about, where you're getting the money, your capital dollars, and to me, this is useless. So this is hard to understand. So you're talking about where your money is, where your money's coming from, but you're not telling us where you're spending it and where the deficits are. So I think it would be more useful in 3 weeks if you have another meeting to bring all that information here, like your capital plan, your budgets, so we can see where you're falling short and where you need to pick up revenues in other areas. Just food for thought. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for the comment. So all of that information and those documents are available in our council meeting packages. So if you go to the town website, you can you'll be able to see a copy of the proposed budget for this fiscal, as well as what was for last fiscal, as well as there's copies of the capital plan, current and past. So all of that information is readily available through the town website. And it's provided to the public at prior to all of our council meetings.
Yeah, good evening. I just want to say, listening to the previous talks and combining them, I'm really not in favor of paying more taxes. I mean, I believe for the home I built in this community, I pay my fair share of taxes. And I sympathize for a lot of the elders that are in the community and contemplating have to pay in taxes, because that's one of the things as a working adult in this community, I'm looking forward to, that one day I'm not be able to pay those taxes and live without those fees. So going forward, the things that we want to have as a community, you're the leadership that's been put in place to manage this community and understand your tasks and understand that you're in a deficit of 3.5 million. That money has to be made up somewhere. But again, I mean, the things like streetlights, nice to have, but not necessary. Those are costs, I think. Those are enjoyments I would certainly could live without. I mean, and I agree that recreation facilities, they're nice to have, but I think from a community's perspective and from a taxpayer's perspective, I think we're all capable of paying our own fees. And there's a lot of funding opportunity out there, again, that probably hasn't been tapped into, that I think should be looked at. Because, when you look at, when we look at the topic of, I'm just kind of going back and looking at all the areas that we spoke about tonight. The landfill, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity incentives that haven't been really fully looked into that could potentially save money, down the road. And I just want to say, it's a burden. I want to live in this community. My kids have come back to this community. Some have called it home. Like a lot of people in this room, our children are here. We want to stay here. And it's the council's responsibility to ensure that people want to live in this community, want to thrive, want to be proud of it. But we don't want to have to. You don't want to have to force people to make a decision that the opportunity to live here or live somewhere else is that choice. And right now, we look at an increase in taxes, and we look at an increase that the Power Corp is contemplating. So we're looking at compounding fees that we're going to have to consider and have to budget as a community government and administration put in power to address the concerns. It's your responsibility to think responsibly, but also take the people that put you into power first. And I just want to say that it sounds like to me tonight that there's There's not a lot of solutions that the town has really thought through. Not a lot of programs that have been dug into that potentially could subsidize and eliminate the debt being forced onto the people. Like I said, I'm not in favor of paying taxes. I'm not in favor of seeing the seniors pay more taxes, but there's a compromise there that has to be made. And I just want to say that good luck, but the bottom line is I hope we don't see our taxes increase to a point where we contemplate living in this community. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment.
Jeremy and then Victor.
What, so we're talking about the taxes going up. I'd seen an ad out on Facebook. The town of Fort Smith's looking for 3 heavy equipment operators. Now, that's $300,000 a year, and I'm all for employment. Just wanting to know if those positions are funded.
So we had 2 heavy equipment operators that retired recently. So we're replacing existing staff that were on the payroll already.
Okay. Another question is, has the town looked at increasing the mill rate for the government of the Northwest Territories?
We have not discussed the mill rate yet. We did raise the mill rate for institutional and for telecommunications last year, and no options are off the table. So that will definitely be part of the conversation going forward.
So I think before our taxes get increased, I'd like to hear back from the town of Fort Smith and see what the increase on the mill rate will be for the government of the Northwest Territories, because that could affect our property taxes major by an increase of 6% something. Maybe we could lower that to 2%. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeremy.
First of all, I just want to thank the mayor and council for having this meeting, and I guess we should have had more, and thank all the elders that came and sat here and all the ones that left, because they're elders and they get tired. Maybe we could have had a little earlier in the day. But anyhow, there's been a lot of good feedback from you that's happening. And when we all go to the movie, we pay to go through that door to watch a movie. Well, my movie is when I come here and sit, my little granddaughter play soccer. Now, if there was a drop box there for donations, I would gladly put $20 every time I came here to watch my granddaughter play soccer and all the other little kids. So 6 people put in $20, that's that's a few bucks more that donated to that facility for lights. I'm looking forward for the arena to be open because I go sit there and watch her play hockey too. And if there was a drop box there, I'll donate again. So that's helping the community. And I'm sure everybody loves to go watch their little granddaughters or kids play hockey, even if they throw $5 in that little drop box or whatever it is. So it's things you have to look at. And like I said earlier, you have to look at even the arena. It's so high that all the heat goes up there. Maybe you could put something there to keep the heat down. I don't know. But you have to sit down and think of things like that. And you got all kind of ideas here. A dictionary is pretty thick, but all the people who are here that tonight is thicker than that dictionary with all the knowledge I have. So it's good that you listen to them. I see people taking notes. I'm sure you're going to have lots to talk about in the next council meeting. And again, I'd like to thank you for being here and inviting all of us here. Asi.
Thank you, Victor. Yes, we are diligently taking notes because we value the contribution of everyone here tonight. And we certainly want to consider all options going forward to try and maintain the level of service that we're providing and keep the costs for facilities as possible so that everyone can access them equally. So that's one focus here. And we definitely, I mean, the last thing we want to do is raise property taxes. I mean, I live in West Grove. I pay pretty high property taxes, so I don't want mine to go up like others in the community. So, you know, it's about finding a balance and doing what we need to do to ensure that we're sustainable going forward. So we appreciate all of the comments, and, you know, we'll definitely take everyone's suggestions into consideration.
Yeah, and then Jeremy?
I think it would help both the council and the community members if we had some sort of communication that isn't so formal, so that people that have things to say can say it, you know, without a timer, and so that they can fully express their knowledge, their input, their whatever you guys are seeking. And I don't know, I thought that this meeting would go totally different. Like what I had in mind would, you know, you guys would ask a question and invite answers. And then when I walked in, you were like, okay, this is the topic. Anybody want to talk? Well, I think half of us didn't know what we were allowed to say or what we were allowed to discuss at that moment, and didn't want to waste our 60 seconds on asking what we were allowed to ask. But anyway, thank you for opening this up, and hopefully in the future we can do this in a different way. You know, we usually sit in a circle and speak to each other respectfully. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your comments, and I've never been involved in this type of forum before, and I was involved, I guess, in the organization of this evening, and part of the reason that we discussed the time was in order to allow as many people to be able to come up and voice their opinion as possible. I certainly agree with your statement that I think I'll take responsibility for making a poor decision in that aspect, even though I'm very happy that we heard from a lot of people. I want to apologize for, and it wasn't our moderator's fault that she was doing what we asked of her when we said to please keep everyone to a minute. So I will apologize for that action that happened when we cut certain elders off. It was not meant with disrespect, and for that I apologize if it was taken that way. It was done out of an intent to try and hear from everybody. So going forward, when we do our next, and I think we probably would consider doing this again, we will look at our format, we will look at how we're interacting, more open, I guess, to comment, focus. This is primarily designed around, we have a deadline to complete our budget and have it submitted by December. So that's why we were so focused on these three topics, because they directly are the significant impact to our budget going forward. So that's why it was such a narrow scope, and we wanted to keep it focused that way. So thank you very much for your comment.
Have Jeremy and then Sanilla and Denise.
Thanks for the apology, Jess, or Jay. Sorry, Jess. I'll apology for my comment, but I said it with a smile. One another thing is, while we're on the topic about Fuzzy brought up the property tax or the arena. It's now going to be closed half the season this year. My son's sitting right there now. hasn't got the opportunity to skate for this half a season. Plus, it got cut short last season. That's revenue lost from the town of Fort Smith, and us people that have paid for registration hasn't seen no refund back for missing half the year. So I don't know, is the town of Fort Smith going to reimburse that or cut the fees down? Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Yeah, so the user fees would be a discussion between you and your user group. There was no cost to the user group for the ice time that they didn't use. So to me, that would seem reasonable that they would reimburse their members for those fees. If you're getting a half a season, I know the arena situation is unfortunate, and I don't know what else to say to that question. Thank you.
I honestly don't know either, but ever since it's been in the town's hands, that it's been a problem. And Jay yourself, when you ran it, it was awesome. There was nothing like this. So I don't know what to say. We had a brand new renovation on it, and I don't know, you operated with a 50-year-old arena. Awesome. So I hope this issue gets resolved, because our youth need to get skating. And if that's going to be the case, maybe it's going to force people out of Fort Smith because of this option isn't available. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Jeremy. Yeah, so the arena issue has been resolved. There was a number of things that happened that resulted in the delay. I won't go into them here, but I think if you want to have a discussion later, I'd certainly be willing to sit and chat with you.
Okay, so it's me. Okay. I just have a comment, and basically it was wonderful. Like this is our first experience here in town to be part of this. But one of the ways to follow this conversation is maybe we have a Town of Fort Smith Facebook page, maybe have some conversations, some ideas where these are the questions, and allow this conversation going on in number of ways rather than just having it one time, and maybe give 5 or 6 options and let people respond to it in civil fashion and keep that dialogue open. There need not be only one way of doing it, or like, I'm not saying send newsletters or have the newspaper going on, but use social media, and maybe we could contribute and have more lively discussions. That's just the way I was just thinking about how we will get more and more information out of all the conversation which has happened. So that's just a suggestion. Thank you.
One of the things that continually has been brought up is people are surprised these things came up and nobody knew. I think we need to communicate a little bit differently. I know I myself have watched the stuff, it's live streamed. There's information out there. This is not the stuff people want to roll their sleeves up and listen to, 3 times a month. But this is a wake-up call for us to start paying attention so we can start having input and offering some solutions. It's easy for us to all be here and criticize. Jay is personally my friend. I support him. I can't believe he answered all the questions that he did respectfully. This was a tough room, so the communication is on us too. So I do hope that we do get more constant communication. And I don't know, somebody else mentioned, they're correct about a newspaper. Not everybody does a mail drop. Rhea had a good solution. Maybe we need 5 areas in here. Spread the counselors out, and people can just drop in and come and have informal. But everybody knows everybody. And I'm really sorry that some questions were preference with, we put that whole starting my request for information with a threat, the election's coming. They're always coming, and these problems are coming. And thank you for addressing this hard stuff and just getting it out there. Rip the Band-Aid off, let's get on with it. But please don't go crazy with the tax increase. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Denise. So we have, as a mayor and council, have I recognized that our communication hasn't been great, and we've worked really hard to improve that. We've done a survey around the community to ensure that we're capturing all of the different ways that we can get the information out so that we're not missing any group. We realize not everybody does social media. There are other people that don't even own a computer. So we're trying to address all of those. We've typically had a newsletter that went out once a month. We're reformatting that process, and we're going to more of a newspaper style of newsletter in the new year that will not only have the newsletter information like we've had in the past, but we'll have schedules of upcoming events and activities that are happening around the community. So we're trying to be very proactive. I can say for myself as a counselor, if anyone in this room or in the community wants to have a conversation about anything, any area of concern, please feel free to reach out. I will talk to anyone about anything. So, you know, and I think that the mayor and my fellow councilors are of the same opinion. Two-way conversation. If the community isn't talking to us, if you have concerns and you don't tell us, we don't read minds. So you need to reach out. You need to say, this is a problem. What are you doing? Can you explain this to me before it's just a Facebook post that takes on a life of its own, you know? Ensure that we know and we're being respectful of each other and we're talking to each other. So that's a big part of it. We see a lot of that nasty stuff on Facebook, and, you know, ask the question, and we'll do the same. So thank you. And we'll do the same. So thank you.
I just wanted to know, what is the deficit that is expected for 2022?
Well, at this time, our deficit is not in our O&M budget. We feel confident that we can balance our O&M budget. Our deficit is in our ability to spoke. So we have a $180,000 deficit in the O&M and an $80,000 deficit in the utilities budget. So directly related to the utilities budget, currently we are in a process of replacing all of the water meters in town. As part of our program, we have a number of water meters that aren't functioning properly. So once at this point we're not cost recovering on that side of the utility. So that's something that we're working towards to ensure that we're cost recovering there, and 180 on the O&M side.
Okay. And with the proposed tax increases, how much money extra are you going to generate?
Or SAO to speak to that question.
So on the form, on the flyer, what do tax increases look like? You know, we need to be looking at a minimum of a 4% tax increase, probably closer to a 5% tax increase in order to cover those deficits. As Mr. Beamish said, depending on how we modify the mill rates. So if we increase the mill rate on government institutional or telecommunications lands, then it actually reduces the burden on households. It increases the burden on other types of properties. So as we're looking at that tax increase, you may not actually, so if we're looking, let's say, a 5% tax increase on a $300,000 house, it's $204 dollars a year. However, that's if we leave the mill rates as they are. Those don't necessarily need to stay that way. They can change in order to offset the cost to the residences and increase the cost to the institutional, telecommunications, and other types of properties.
If this goes through, okay, let's say goes through like it's proposed here, what's the total amount you're going to get extra?
We're going to cover the deficit, and then if council chooses, they may increase it more in order to put more money in the bank. That is dependent on what level of tax increase they go with, if that is their decision.
Okay, but you must have a dollar figure. That's what I'm trying to get, is a dollar figure of the extra taxes you're going to collect if you go ahead with these increases.
Yeah, to cover the amount required to cover, and then if council chooses, we don't have an exact number until the tax percentage is increased, until we know which level of tax increase we're going to go with. So I don't have all the numbers exactly in my head, but I can tell you on this, that in order to raise $150,000, we have to have a 4% tax increase.
Okay. And in the past, have you had surpluses here? Do you have accumulated surpluses?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And my other question is, would you consider using those until you have a plan together of lots that are vacant and what are you going to do about it, and all the other things that were discussed here today? Can you take some of those surpluses, and have you also considered that if you have money in the bank, you will not get 1% on your money? You should be able, if you place it, get 4%. So if you had $16 million, let's say, in the bank, it would generate $520,000 extra this year.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, like, if you had surpluses before, can these be used?
Surpluses from our general reserve can be used. However, given our significant lack of funding for infrastructure and the fact that we have significant amounts of essential infrastructure that is aging, moving funds from our reserves into our current operating budget is not an ideal situation.
Okay.
Next year alone, for water and sewer, we're looking at a minimum of $4 million worth of infrastructure that needs to be replaced.
Okay.
So when you move those funds, and then we have a major slide or another natural disaster like a wildfire, we no longer have access to those funds to deal with the costs of those cleanups or emergency situations. So we need to keep a certain amount of money in our general reserves.
Okay, thank you.
I'll keep it short. I guess a couple of my questions have already been asked and answered. So I'll just make a different point. It's more about format. I think it's only right now I realize kind of why we're here. I like a change in format in the future. And for starters, for town, for council, and thank you for giving us this opportunity, by the way, to make some sort of a proposal, or at least a presentation about what you'd expect from us, what your situation is, what you're trying to do, how much deficit we have, how much money, and so on and so forth, so we can actually play an integral part in providing solutions. But for me sitting here and not knowing how you conduct business, not knowing where the pressure points are, not knowing what some stressors are this year besides COVID and everybody's stressed, it doesn't give me a large opportunity to try and focus my thoughts. So I've sat here pretty much for the whole time trying to figure out what it is you wanted, what you were thinking of doing, how far you were going to go. But the only thing I can say is when I came here, it was all about cutting. It was all about cost reductions, seniors, all the three topics. That's all I understood that might be happening, right? So it'd be nice to have a little bit more upfront information and a little sooner than a day before the meeting, because that's when I found it and I had to search quite a bit. So anyway, that's all I would encourage is a little bit of a format change and a little bit of precursor information prior to the meeting so that you can state what it is you're trying to accomplish and maybe the situation we're in. And we might be able to help you a little bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. Understood, and we'll definitely use this as a learning opportunity. I can clearly see that we have some work to do if we want to engage the community again in how we format it, and I think we can do a better job than this, but thank you for your comment.
Thank you. The lady, I'm sorry, I don't know her name. Thank you for asking those questions. So it made things a little bit more clear for me. So when you said that the deficit for, is it 2021 or 2022? For 23? Okay, so $180,000 in the general fund deficit, to me, it's nothing. Like when you have taxation revenues at $3.6 million and user fees at $2.9 million, like $180,000 in deficit is nothing. So when you look at your general reserve of $600,000, I think that we don't need to raise our taxes by 4, 5, 6, or 7% if we have a $600,000 general reserve that you can just take from there. Because when I add up all the general reserves, it comes to $5.707 million. So to me, like I said, it doesn't make sense to want to increase our taxes to collect $180,000. That's really nothing in a budget of 6 about $15 million. No, it's got to be more than that for a town of Fort Smith. Anyways, so and another thing is that so I own a property in Fort Simpson. My taxes are less there than here, and I have a stick-built home in Simpson. Heritage to trade here, pay more tax here than I do in Simpson. So it just, to me, it doesn't make sense that I would pay more taxes on a trailer than a stick-built home in Fort Simpson that has more value than a trailer here. Thanks.
So I guess I'll maybe wrap things up and then I'll let the mayor have the last word. So I really appreciate everyone coming to this tonight. Like I said, it was our first attempt at something like this. We've listened, we hear the community, and we will consider all of the options going forward. But I just wanted to say thank you very much for everyone's patience and input and information. It was very much appreciated. So I'll pass it over to the mayor for the final word. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. It was very important that we have this meeting, and it's a touchy meeting, but whether they raise tax this year or whatever, it just, at least now that you know that at some point in time we're going to have to deal with this, because like I said, another 4 more years the 60 baby boomers are going to be here. So how many families does that equate? And we're not going to be sustain it. But, I think all of us putting our heads together, we could overcome that. Like Denise said, elections are coming up. Well, I'll tell you right now, next election, I'm not going to be running. So put that aside. But, I have a year and 11 months in this, same as council. And the problem was our infrastructure it was put in all in the same pretty well decade. So when it starts coming down, it's like dominoes. And last year we've done a lot of work trying to catch up. Like that one on where the theater was on Portage. Well, you had piping there that streamed out to 5 different homes, 3 different homes. Well, that was in the 60s. That was asbestos piping. And yes, we went overboard of $80,000, but we had to bite the bullet on it to fix the whole problem. So then it was paved, so we should never have a problem there again. We had problems there for the last 3, 4, 5 years, I believe, but that problem's fixed. We done another 2 more digs, and those are okay. But it's our infrastructure that are falling apart. And before I leave this office, I'm more concerned of the services that we're selling to our residents, because like we need pumps in that. And I don't believe in band-aid solutions. If we're going to do it, let's do it right and bite the bullet in it. And at least the town's good for another 60 years. We have the water intake to deal with. This late fall, one of our liners went at the lagoon, and they're 40-some years old. They need to be replaced. So I'm thinking, well, if you're going to replace one, you might as well just replace the whole thing and get it over with and bite it, and then you got a good lagoon. I'm trying to get things to a possibility like you don't have to wear it for another 50, 60 years, but that takes money to do. And that's where I'm at. And honestly, I wanted to come in here and I wanted to build that big shrine for the firefighters. But I mean, reasonably, that's not going to happen, because our services come first. Our community members come first. They're just going to have to deal with what they got. Same as the retros at the town hall. Sure, we could paint the outside, but as far as the new building, no, that's totally off it, because I don't believe the town hall needs a new building right now. We need our infrastructure looked after. And that's why that whole system, I've been after that system, and finally we're getting it. It'll be a brand new system where everything is in a computer, everything, that fire or that pump station that takes this pump here, everything. With their pumps nowadays, they're obsolete. You can't get them. So put in a brand new system in there, you're good again. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. But with this council, it's residents come first before them. And yeah, we're selling products to our residents. They got to be 100%. You can't be selling products that's 80%. That's just not good enough. So it takes a lot of money to do that. And like I said, before I leave office, I want that all straightened out. For the next mayor and council to come in, you don't have to worry about it. You got a few items to do, buildings, and then you can start building again. But it's to get to that point. And sometimes we're going to have to bite the bullet on it because it needs to be fixed. And one of the things that I want to see in that new computer system is maintenance. You got to do your maintenance, because it's easier to fix a boiler or service a boiler for $350 than it is to go and buy a brand new boiler when you just don't have the money. And that's something that we need to do, is service. And then things don't break down. They don't start all crashing at once. So that's one thing that I love about that system. Everything will be there. But getting to it, it's going to take some time. But anyway, I thank you for all coming out tonight. Like I said, I don't know when we had this last meeting or whatever, but this is a good thing where we could sit down with our members and talk face to face. Because even though you have 9 people here, we don't have all the answers. It's sitting down like this, that you guys lived longer than some of us, and you have the answers. So I think this is a good start to it. I might have been a little bit fast here, saying we could meet back in December again, but I'll have to check with my council. I'm ambitious, right? I don't like waiting around. So that's probably one of the problems that I won't run again, because it's a little bit too slow here for me. like first reading, second reading, you just missed half the summer. So I think I'll go back to Indian country and where you just tell it where you want and there's done by Friday. So it was good being here, and it was something I had to learn. Still learning about it. It's a new brand new arena, and I'm not really used to it, but we're going to go through this, and we're going to get our town back in shape again. So I thank you for coming out tonight, and I look forward to other meetings with the residents. Thanks.
I just wanted to make one last thank you. I wanted to thank the other counselors that were here tonight. I was remiss in not thanking them. Our SAO, who put a lot of effort into assisting the mayor and council with this presentation, to the staff, and to Jessica for doing a great job as our moderator. So thank you all very much. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, just one more thing. I try to make a deal with Jessica here. I done my first term. You should do yours second term. So to finish it off.
Oh, one last information